What's up guys, Sub-Zeric here, and welcome to my patch 12.20 tier list. I would honestly say this is one of the best patches of the entire set. There's so many comps, so many people have discovered new comps because NA's Regional is going to be on this patch. I think this might be the World's patch, I'm not 100% sure, but there's been a lot of discovery on this patch of new and interesting comps, and most of the comps from previous patches are viable. So I'm going to go over my tier list, but I'm going to give you guys a little bit bonus today. I'm going to give you 9 comps instead of 5, and I'm breaking it into AD and AP. We're going to start with AD. This is going to be our first AD comp. But yeah, I think you can honestly play either style, AD flex or AP flex. I do think, early on in the game, you can usually tell if you're going to play something that's AD or AP, but sometimes you can flex between the two with something like Winsu. But yeah, that being said, let's hop right into it with the first comp, and this is Swiftshot Yone Reroll. It's honestly a comp that has really sprung up over the last patch. I feel like it wasn't on a lot of people's radars, maybe a tiny little bit, but China's really popularized it. I've been watching a lot of games on the Chinese Super server, which, if you haven't seen my VOD reviews, go check them out. They're super interesting, super cool seeing the best players in the world play each other. But it revolves around playing Yone with a Swiftshot emblem. Now, you don't necessarily have to have Swiftshot Yone. You could put a Rapid Fire Can on Yone, or if you have scoped weapons, ideally scope weapons 2, then you can still just backline the Yone and he's going to get a ton of range. Scope weapons 1 is okay, but not ideal, but you can run this comp with scope weapons. But it really revolves around Yone being the main carry with 4 warriors. You are going to sit at level 6 and roll down for a Yone 3 and potentially a Braum 3 as well. You don't really care about 3-starring pretty much anything else. It's really just Yone 3 and Braum 3, so you can hit those. And then you have a very strong comp, honestly. You cap it out with the 4 warriors. Silas makes perfect sense with Olaf and Pantheon because he's going to give you Bruiser and Whispers, which is really nice for shredding their frontline, MR and armor. Yasuo is just, the perfect warrior, but early game you can play Wukong instead of the Yasuo. And then Soraka is just a nice little unit to round out the comp at level 8, but like some games you'll just finish the game at level 7 because you've rolled so much at level 6. But if you get to level 8, Soraka is a fine addition. You can also throw in random guild units like Bard, though obviously the extra mana that units get on hit doesn't apply to Yone because he has no mana. You could even play something like a Jace just to buff up your team a little bit better with the guild bonus from Twitch. If you really want to. If you had some reason to want to play a lot of Swift shots, you could play Ezreal. So this last slot is flex, but this 7-unit core with Wukong subbing in for this until you can get to Yasuo is what the comp revolves around. Yone just wants as much of attack speed as damage as possible, so Gwynsu's is core on him. You need Gwynsu's on this unit, honestly. If you don't, it's going to be a much more difficult game. Giant Slayer is a great item. If you feel a need for more defensive items, you can go for Hodge. It's really good. Those are really like the core items that I would try to build on Yone most games. There's some more flexible stuff that you could, like, theoretically you can build AD items on him. Some of his damage comes from AP, but it's mostly the AD damage from Warrior, so something like a Death Blade or an Infinity Edge isn't terrible, but it's not amazing. So ideally go for this core. And yeah, the early game is really just getting an early Yone and playing around it. I wouldn't force this comp, but if you have 2-3 Yones early game, you can definitely look to play around this comp. Any warrior augments are obviously really good. Double Trouble is really nice. I saw 60second, one of the best players in China, play this board yesterday with Double Trouble, just playing 2 Yones to get a ton of stats out of it. Preparation is really good, as it is with any reroll comp. So those are a lot of the strong augments. But yeah, like I said, early game, you really just play around Yone. You can play Guardians early with Leona, of course, and activate whatever the Mirage is. Leona's another like really good flex unit that you can play. Like even if you don't have Yasuo, you can theoretically play just like this board with Yasuo out for Wukong. Playing a Leona at 8 isn't ideal, but it's going to give you that Guardian and that Mirage. Oh, speaking of Mirage, what Mirages are really good with this? Electric Overload obviously sucks because Yone is going to be in the backline, not proccing it very much. Pirate's Greed obviously sucks. Dawnbringers isn't great because you're taking a lot of damage. All the other ones are pretty decent though. Warlords with the extra AP is alright. Duelists or Executioners is also alright, but Spell Swords and Duelist Dexterity are really the ones that feel really good because obviously Yone is auto-attacking a lot, so getting up that extra AP or that extra attack speed is very good. So yeah, that is the first AD comp. Let's move to the next one because I want to go kind of fast because I have so many of these to go through. This is Darkflight Rengar. Same as last patch. where you play around having a bunch of Rengars on the board to get the Darkflight Essence from sacrificing an emblem. These are very, very strong Rengar items, and these are strong Swain items. You can play this with any kind of Darkflight opener, or you can just play it with like a strongest board opener where you slam these items onto anyone. You know, you could put them on a Yone, perhaps, an Olaf or something, and Ezreal could even hold a lot of these, and then eventually pivot into this comp. You need an emblem to play this version of the comp, where you sacrifice Cavalier emblem, or, you know, any emblem, and give Darkflight Essence to your entire team. If you want to go more in depth in this, I talked about it in my last tier list video as well, so if you don't know what Darkflight Essence does, I went more in depth back then, but it's a very strong item that basically gives a mini Triforce to all your units, and then when they die, they give that Triforce to all of your other units, so it's really insane. So this is like the core Darkflight board, but there are lots of other variants you can go. You can go like the Zeke's version of previous patches, so like if you want an idea of how something like that looks, it's obviously very, very different from this, but you're playing around Aphelios and Rel, and you're going to get Graves in, and you can go the 4 Cannoneer version with Senna plus Zeri, or you can even just play the 2 Cannoneer version. It really depends on what you hit, but it's something like this. Get a Hecarim in later, and then you can really continue to just double up on Aphelios's, and this is 7 units, so Aphelios and Relios. Where is Rel? You can do something like this, and you're going to want Graves getting all your Zekes. You'll be sacrificing a Zekes here, and then you have something like this sort of like old school Cannoneer Darkflight build, and then Graves really wants items like Edge of Night, ET, Titan's Resolve, this kind of stuff. Leftover AD items can go on Aphelios or Zeri. If it is Cannoneer Namzi, you can look at playing Namzi, but I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of Namzi in this board. But, you know, you can do this and get 6 Cannoneer and be doing a ton of damage. It's not as broken as it was in the past, but there has been a resurgence in this comp recently, so this is something that you can easily play. You can even look at playing like a full-on Darkflight board, where instead of this, instead of playing the extra copies, you play your Rengar and your Kiana. I saw a Soju playing this board last night, where he actually just rolled it down for Aphelios 3, Rel 3, and Rengar 3. He had double trouble, so it looked a little bit different than this. He wasn't playing Zeri and Hecarim. He was like cutting these for second copies of all of these units. I think it was actually this unit was being sacrificed, right? You would sacrifice Kiana, and then you just play copies of all these units. So in the double trouble version, you can play like this: Aphelios and Relios and Rengarios. So you can do like this with double trouble, say 8 units, and then put items on like a Rengar 3. Rengar really loves IE, really loves Hodge, kind of the items that I had on before. Edge of Night, Renans is another really good item. So you can go this version, which is really, really strong as well. So there's actually a ton of different versions of the Darkflight comp. Like I was saying, this patch seems so flexible. There's so many comps you can play. So if you say, oh, I got more Dark, I played against a Karma again, there's only one broken comp this patch, then you're probably bad at the game. Not to be mean, but like there's actually so many viable comps this patch. I think it's like actually beautiful. They might need to adjust a few things, as I'll get to later, but like I honestly think it's really good. Like I said, trying to move quickly. Already 8 minutes in, I've only done 2 comps, so let's move into the next comp. This is Shi Oh Yu Syfen comp that you've seen many times before, just a very generic capped AD board. Important ideas with this comp is you want to roll down at 7 a lot to play this board, because you can hit your entire board on 7. You don't need any 5 cost to play the board, though something like a Serac is fine late game. But it's really based around hitting Syfen and Shi Oh Yu 2, which you can hit on 7. If you have a ton of gold, you can go 8 and roll for them. It gives you better odds, but you can easily stabilize on 7 with this comp around Shi Oh Yu and Syfen 2 and like Pantheon 2, Jace 2, all this kind of stuff. So this is the generic version of the board. As you get to late game, you're going to want to cut this Gnar and this Jace and put in Soraka as your other Jade unit, and you're going to want to start moving into a Mystic variation. So you can put in Bard. You can even, so like you do this board and then you push 9 and add like a Rakan. If you for some reason have an empty slot, like maybe a +1 Jade, you can even get out of this Jax if you have +1 Jade, like I was saying, and then put it in a Seraphine. But late game is highly AP heavy. Like a lot of the really strong comps that cap out this patch are AP. Like I said, you know, there's some of these and some of these, but I've seen a lot of AP late game, especially with the Dragon's boards, as we'll talk about later. So you really want to get as many Mystics in as possible, so it's completely reasonable to play this 4 Mystic variation of this comp late game, if you have +1 Jade. If not, you can just cut the Seraphine, keep the Jax in for Bruiser and Jade, and then just play this, which is a perfectly fine board at level 9. So this is how you cap out the comp. How do you get to this comp? Well, usually you are just playing early game Jade boards with some kind of carry. It can be as easy as like this board plus a Wukong, if I can find him, and then an Olaf holding your items or a Wukong holding your items, but Olaf fits in very easily here, giving us Bruiser and Warrior. So this is a very, very stable early board, and it also gives you your 2 Jade units that you need for late game. And then, if you like high roll a Jace, you can play it, and that's awesome. You can also play like Nidalee with this board, and Nidalee can item hold. And then, instead of Olaf, you could play like any Bruiser, though you lose out on the Warrior buff. So a lot of stuff that you can do early game with this board, and then transition very, very easily into that comp. You really want to slam, like I said, just sort of like these generic, really strong frontline AD items. This Hodge is also very good. Giant Slayer is not even that bad as well. And then all your leftover tank items are going to go on Pantheon or Jace late game. And Jace can hold AP items, but this comp is very bad with AP items. Jace is not the best AP item holder. So if you end up in a situation where you have like Rod, then you're probably not playing this comp. Syfen can hold Guinsoo's Rage Blade, but not the most insane. So yeah, your mileage may vary on that one. All right, let's go into the next comp. This is our last AD comp I have here, and it's kind of an AD comp because you use all the AD items on Graves, but this is the Seraphine comp. They actually nerfed Seraphine through this patch. I thought this comp was going to be kind of dead, but it's seen a resurgence recently. I think it has to do with the fact that you can fit in 3 Mystic really, really easily, which is really good late game, and then also the fact that a lot of other comps have been nerfed. So this is just the generic level 8 board. You can clump up a little bit more if you want to do something like this. I mean, it's just a beautiful comp, really, because the Graves does very well with the Zeri, giving Cannoneer. You can get 3 Lagunin easily to farm items. Pantheon and Zyra give you Whispers. And the main idea behind this comp, if you haven't seen it before, is that the way Seraphine works is she gives you bonus damage on hit when she casts. She gives all the units that she shields bonus damage on hit. Pantheon, where he goes stab, 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 each of those is a hit. Graves, when he auto attacks and shoots 4 bullets, each of those is a hit. So that means you are, quadrupling up on her passive for Graves, and, I don't know how many times he stabs, but it's a lot for Pantheon. So these are 2 units that benefit a ton from Seraphine. So you can stabilize around this. Once again, it's a comp that can stabilize on 7. Just don't play the Bard, and just play this board at 7, and then roll down for Graves 2, Pantheon 2, and it's very good. If you have the luxury of going 8, then you can obviously go 8 and add in a Bard. You can also add in a Yasuo, which is a very good unit to add. There's also many other variations of this comp that I've seen. I've seen comps where instead of playing Zyra and Pantheon, you play Nyla and Kiana. Whoops, I got rid of my guy there. I got rid of Rakan. But yeah, like this is a playable version. You can also even do stuff like this, where instead of playing Zac, you play Idis frontline. I've seen this version. If I can find Idis. So yeah, like this is another version you can play if you have a good Shimmer Scale item that you really want to play. It's usually something like, Determined Investor evolving into Diamond Hands is really good here. The Gem, the Modalist Mail. You don't really fit a lot of items onto Graves, like Shimmer items on Graves, because he doesn't really like any of them. Like Draven's Axe is just not that good. Gambler's Blade's okay, but you really want sort of these like tanky AD defensive items here, and Goldmancer's does fine. So you can even play a version like this. This is actually a very, very flexible comp with a lot of different versions you can play. So once again, don't get stuck and say, oh man, I missed my Pantheons, I can't play the game. You can easily play like this version. And ideally at level 8, then you would get in Kiana. But like, if you don't hit a lot of Idises instead of that, you can just play the generic version with Zac instead. I still think the version with Pantheon Zyra is the strongest, but it's good to have those other versions in mind because, they're also playable if you high roll them. Important itemization thing. Zeke's Herald is probably like the best item in this entire comp. It is so insane just to stack Zeke's on Zeri and Graves. Makes him auto attack more for Seraphine, makes Zeri auto attack more for Seraphine, makes Zyra auto attack more for Seraphine, and just for Zyra's cast. So really, really insane item. And what that means is a lot of the time, you don't have to build Morellos. A lot of people I've seen, high elo people, are saying that Morellos is not that important in this comp because it uses up your giant spell, and you want to get as many Zeke's Herald as possible. If you have 3 Zekes, then I think okay, last item can be Morellos, or if you get this off a Carousel or Treasure Dragon or something, it's good. But you already have healing reduction on Pantheon's ult, so you don't 100% need Morellos. These are Graves' best items that you need to hit Edge of Night. Outside of that, some kind of healing is good. Bloodthirster is best, but Hodge is fine. And in a pinch, you can take Gunblade. But ideally, it's BT, Edge of Night. And then Titan is a really good last item. You can go for damage last item if you have, like some kind of augment that heals or makes you tanky, so like Renan's Hurricane is good. Oh, and speaking of augments as well, and I can't go through these for all comps, but it's just stuff that's popping into my head. You really want like Preparation, Cybernetic Uplink is really good. First Aid Kit's okay. Better Together is obviously really good because you can use these. Oh, another very strong item is Protector's Vow, because you group up for it, so Protector's Vow procs. All right, gonna keep going because I'm already 15 minutes in. My first AP comp. This is the secret tech. I saw this. I saw Hwanmi playing it yesterday. This is Lillia Darkflight Scalescorn reroll. Usually you're rolling for Lillia and Diana, but if you hit Rel 3 and Braum 3, you can play that stuff in Rengar 3. It's primarily around Lillia carry, and the idea is you use Darkflight to spread out multiple chalices of power here. You can even play more earlier game if you don't have like the Hecarim. You can just play like another Rel or another Rengar. The synergies make perfect sense because you can get Assassin in with Diana, and then Lillia gives you Cavalier. So it's a comp that makes a ton of sense. Lillia, you really, really want Ionic Spark BT, just some kind of healing and then damage. Because you have all these chalices, you don't necessarily need an Archangels, but Archangels is still good. So I would opt for something like a Giant Slayer or a JG so that you can do even more damage when you cast. Diana as well is going to be a big damage threat, so something like an IE and a Hodge is very good on her, but she's still very, very good at spreading Sunfire to the backline, so I think that's very good. And then you just cap it out with Scalescorns and Cavaliers, and you can just sack the Olaf, because this unit is not going to do very much for you in this comp. So it's a really, really interesting comp. I don't know how broken it is. I've only seen it played once, but this is like the secret tech. So if you want to try out a comp that I think not a lot of people are forcing, definitely try this one out. It seems very, very fun. I don't know the power level of it completely. That's why I left it as the 5th best AP comp, but I think it's a really, really interesting comp. So definitely try this one out. All right, next comp we have Guild Daeja. I've talked about this comp before, so I'm not going to go too in-depth, but yeah, I mean, it's just guild units plus Daeja. You get 4 Mirage in. Nunu with the Cavalier is really strong. As I have said before, I have a spreadsheet with best items on Daeja. Please remind me in the comments to post that, and I will post that for you guys. But the main idea is that whatever Mirage you want, you don't need to build that. So like Dawnbringer, you don't need to build healing because you already have healing. Spell Swords, you're getting all this stacking AP, so you don't really need something like Archangels. Instead, you could build something like a JG. So just think about what the Mirage is and think about what will synergize best with that, which is usually not building what the Mirage gives you. But yeah, this is a comp that does very well with like an Ezreal opener, because you can just put all these Daeja items on Ezreal and then just play all of these Cavaliers. Like this could literally be your board at, what level is this? 6? You don't have to high roll a Jace, of course, but instead of Jace, you could play like a Nunu or something, and then that just makes the transition super, super easy into the Daeja board. These are insanely good. Zippy items. Oh, Guild Emblem is very good on Daeja, but not necessary. Some people have said, I didn't know you could play this comp without Guild Emblem. Yes, you can play without Guild Emblem. Like, Daeja really likes a Guild Emblem, but it's not, completely necessary. You can easily play this comp without Guild Emblem. So this is a very strong version of comp. If you are interested, late game, if you have a ton of gold, you can actually play Guild Ao Shin instead of Guild Daeja. So if you have a ton of gold, you can do something like this and play Guild Ao Shin, and then we have one more extra slot, so we can put in something like a Bard very easily. Bard is really, really good for Guild Ao Shin because of the extra mana on attack. So then you don't have to build a mana item on Ao Shin, and you just do this. So this is another variant of the comp that you can play. And eventually, if you aren't playing around 8 guild, you can like get out of Sejuani and play some sort of like better units late game, like a random Yasuo, or you can just end up transitioning this into a 4 Dragons board, which I'll talk about more later. So yeah, this is a pretty flexible comp. You can play around the Ditch, you can play around the Ao Shin. Also a very, very strong AP comp. That's my number 4 AP comp out of 5. Next up, we have Karma Reroll. A lot of people were talking about this, saying, oh my god, it's too broken. It's just too insane. And it's very, very good, but I think people have realized over the last few days that it's not turbo broken. You really, really need good augments for this comp. Good augments are augments that are really selfish for Karma, for her mana or her HP. So Axiomark is very good. Thrill of the Hunt is very, very good. Anything that really like gives her healing or like gives her extra damage. Jeweled Lotus is insane. So that you, instead of having to build a JJ, you can just build more damage. This is a very generic level 8 board, but you're not going to always be able to hit this. So like level 6 board that you'll often have once you hit the Karma is this plus Kiana. So this is a completely serviceable board. If you have one of these guys 1-star, you can cut them, but like a 2-star Dragonmancer actually gives a lot of extra stats. So you can easily play this. This is a board that you usually play around hyper rolling and slow rolling. So what you want to do is not level up at all during stage 2. You just stay level 3 and then naturally level up to level 4, and you chill by as many karmas as you can. I would definitely play this comp if you see 2-3 karmas early game, like over the minion rounds, and then ideally during stage 2 you natural some more, best case scenario. But yeah, if you see a lot of karmas, you can play this comp. So don't level up at all. Once you get to 3-1, you're supposed to roll your gold above 50 gold. So if you don't have 50 gold, then that's a little bit sad. Maybe you didn't, like, sometimes you can full loss streak with this comp. I've also seen people win streak with it if they hit really good karma items. So you don't have to play loss streak or win streak, but ideally you have 50 gold, but that is like a lot of gold. So if you don't have above 50 at 3-1, don't roll at all. 3-2, you're going to naturally level up to level 5, and then you can just slow roll, which means roll all your gold above 50 gold for this karma. And you should hit karma near the end of stage 3, at worst at like 4-1, but ideally sometime in stage 3, or at least by the end of stage 3, hit this karma, and 2-star all your other Dragonmancers, because that does give karma more stats. This is best in slot karma. You can also use things like Bloodthirster just to make her tanky. You really want, 2 damage items and a healing item, unless you have something like Throw of the Hunt or Celestial Blessing, and then you don't need this as much, but Thrill is really good, like I said, because you want selfish augments for karma. You don't want the rest of the team being healed. You just want karma to get all the kills and heal herself back up to full. So these are fine. Another amazing item is Giant Slayer. So say you don't need a healing item, you can just cut this and play Giant Slayer. Say you have Jeweled Lotus instead, you can cut this item and then just do any kind of like AP item. Archangels is okay, but not the best. Even like a Death Cap isn't the worst. You could just end up having like a Hodge. If you have like Jeweled Lotus, this could be your build. Very, very good. So yeah, Chalice is amazing just to give karma more AP, because like I said, it's the karma show. It is all about karma. I have a VOD review that's going to go up later this week of Shunga playing this comp, so look out for that. But yeah, it's a really fun reroll comp that is quite strong if you can get online. It stabilizes really well and then tends to fall off like end of stage 5, early stage 6. So it's usually not like a first place comp, because you're playing a Karma 3 as your carry. It's usually like a second or third place comp. But that is completely fine. And like I said, it's augment dependent and item dependent. Do not build like Morellos on Karma. I made this mistake. You need damage on Karma. You don't want to be playing sort of like a generic, ooh, I'm Karma, I'm throwing, this out, I'm using Static Shiv or whatever. You just need damage. Oh, also, you don't need to build like blue buff on Karma as much, because you can just frontline her like this and she can get mana from taking damage. That's also why something like Axiom Arc is so good, because you don't really want to build blue buff. You just want as much damage as possible. I've even seen people just like middle their karma. If you have Hodge or like Axiom or Thrill the Hunt or whatever, she's going to be gaining a lot of HP from taking damage anyway, so this is completely fine to put her in the middle like this. I know it looks a little bit weird, but yeah. Oh, and like I said, like I had at the beginning, late game, this comp is going to cap out with 6 Dragonmancer, and then you can put a lot of stuff in here. I've seen some people go for, like, say, a Jax plus a Soraka to get in Jade. You can do that. Like I had before, you have the Ao Shin, who can be a secondary carry and also give you 4 Tempest just to zap your enemies, so that can be very good. You can even go, like, the Mystic variation with, like, Bard and Rakan, which will also give you Rage Wing, which is, not the most important synergy, but not the worst either. So, a lot of different variations late game, but it's really, ideally you get to 6 Dragonmancer, because that is such a huge spike for this board. All right, going on to the next comp, we have 4 dragons. This is a different version of 4 dragons that I've shown before. We're actually playing the Shi Oh Yu to get in 3 Mystic. Like I said, late game, there's so many AP comps. There's so many comps that are like this. I feel like this comp is just so good, and having the Shi Oh Yu for Mystic is insanely important. So that's why I think this is actually the strongest version. I've even seen people not play the Shyvana and instead just play Idas and have full-on like tankiness, and then just have Ao Shin be your only damage dealer. You also don't have to play Ao Shin. Instead of Ao Shin, you can easily play Aurelion Sol as a carry. The main thing about Asol is he really wants healing, so something like this looks really, really good on Aurelion Sol. Where's Giant Slayer? Boom, like this. If you're playing this variant, you wouldn't play Rakan usually. Instead, you would play Seraphine to give you Evoker and Mystic anyway. So you can play this version. I probably want her like down here or something. Putting guys in the Terra Hexes so that they don't get wrecked, but don't get like shrouded or or Zephyr, you can easily make the swap and do something like this and just keep a soul in the corner so that he doesn't get shrouded or Zephyred, and people will think that you're going to greed for the Terra Hexes, but in reality, you're, playing to chill. If you don't have a bunch of tank items on Terra, I would put Idas here, because Terra is actually not that tanky until their first cast. So if you have a ton of tank items on Terra, it's fine. Terra can just chill in the middle and take all this aggro with gargoyles. You could even do like something like this, so it takes a ton of aggro. But if you don't have that many tank items, I would primarily tank Idas, and then Terra can walk up, get a cast off, and then become very tanky. But yeah, this is the generic 4 Dragons board I've talked about a million times before. So yeah, only go this comp if you can go level 9 with a ton of gold. You don't play it every game, unless you're me smurfing on noobs, and then, you can probably go fast 9 a lot of the time, playing around Ezreal or Karma as your early carry, but you usually can't play this every single game. But this patch, there is a lot more greediness happening, people playing around Lagoon and Astral early, so definitely something that you can look at. All right, and the last comp, I don't think it's actually a higher cap than this comp, but I think it's more consistent. It is the Kaisa Shimmer Scale Reroll comp that I put a video out yesterday. It's just really hype to watch. It's really fun to see a Kaisa one-shot the whole board. This is the board that you roll down for, ideally at level 6, and you can just hit Kaisa 3, most important. Zac 3 is fine, it's very good, and Jax 3 is good as well. If you hit a Nasus 3, that's great, but don't roll at level 4 or level 5 to hit this. Really, you gotta hit Kaisa 3 and Zac 3 if you can. So this is a very strong comp. Needlessly, Big Gem is very, very good here. Goldmancer Staff is good in the early game. The late game, you kind of want to get to real Kaisa items unless you have a ton of gold. Determined Investor is amazing because it'll give you that Nico's Help, the Champion Duplicator, to hit like a Kaisa 3, a Zac 3, a Jax 3 or something like that. And then also the Diamond Hands can just go on your Zac and go on your Jax. It can go on your like Yasuo late game. So this is the level 6 board. Once you hit all of this stuff, also, like any reroll comp, I don't really like forcing this. I just only want to play it if I hit a lot of Kaisas early. If you have like 3 Kaisas by the end of stage 2 or 2 Kaisas even, I like playing this comp, but I really don't like hard forcing, but some people do. So if you want to force, then do it. Your mileage may vary. But yeah, you play this, and then when you push levels, you want to start cutting units and getting in Dragonmancers. So you can do, get these guys in, get 4 Dragonmancer. But the Malphite and the Zac, especially if you don't hit Zac 3, are very cuttable. So your level 8 board can easily look like this if you can hit a Yasuo on level 8. This is the ideal level 8 board, as you guys saw if you watched that video of Shunga playing this comp. This is the ideal level 8 board if you have a Shimmer item that you care about a ton. If you don't, then you could even cut the Nasus and Jax for different stuff, just to cap out your board. But a lot of time, like Gem is so good as a late game item. Mogul's Mail is fine as a frontline item. Like I said, Diamond Hands is going to be insane on like a Yasuo late game. And if you have a ton of gold the whole game, you can just leave a Goldmancer on Kaisa. Oh, and this is best in slot Kaisa. It's very good. Interesting fact about Kaisa. So she has 45 mana, which means blue buff gives you back 20, which means after her first cast, and I guess with her first cast, because she's going to, get the bonus mana, she's going to auto 3 times. You could also, theoretically, instead of blue buff, play Shojin on her, because it's going to give her the extra AP, and she's still going to be 3 auto cast, because she's going to get 15 per auto. So what's interesting to me is I see in the data, everybody loves blue buff. I mean, the main idea is that this is going to give you an earlier first cast, which means with Kaisa, she's going to ramp up every time she casts. So she gets 2 missiles every time she casts up to its 10 missiles. So it does speed up your first cast, so I imagine that's why blue buff has better stats, but Shojin is completely serviceable on this unit, so don't count Shojin out. Outside of that, you just want as much damage as possible. Once again, something like Hodge is fine, so you can do like this, and if you really need healing, do Hodge, but it's kind of similar to the Karma comp, where you want like Thrill the Hunt to heal Kaisa up. Celestial Blessing is fine. Axiomark is not the best early, because Kaisa's just not going to have enough damage to kill units, but late game Axiomark can be quite good, just to, keep ramping up your Kaisa, making her cast a ton of times. So that's something that's very good late game. But yeah, this is the late game version of the board. You can just put items on Yasuo. I deleted the Yasuo items earlier, but blue buff is very good on him. Edge of Night is very good on him. Like BT is good on him. Hodge is good on him. Titans is good on him. Okay, this video is almost 30 minutes long, so I'm gonna finish it up with this. But those are, in my opinion, the 9 best comps of this patch. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Check out my Twitch down below. I'm gonna stream tomorrow from when I'm posting this on Sunday. And, you know, I stream all the time. So hope you guys enjoyed. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.